Just going to continue from where we left off when I saw you guys yesterday. But today, we got to look at how this opportunity that exists in America in the mid to late 1800s into the early 1900s is going to be like nothing else in the world. What we need to talk about is going to be how this opportunity comes with the expansion of big business. Now, I use this phrase, but we got to kind of be careful because when we talk about like big business today, it's very, very different from what was taking place in like the mid 1800s. If we're talking big businesses today, you can kind of point to the Apples, the Amazons. They're huge, massive companies. Those didn't exist before the Transcontinental Railroad was really created. Now, we had been kind of talking about this before. Remember, what did the ranchers, what did the farmers, what did they get to do when the railroads start creeping towards them? How does the railroad provide them an opportunity? What do they do with it? Yes, you. Excellent. They can transport goods from west to east. By the late 1800s, we're going to have a transcontinental railroad crisscrossing America. Now you can get goods literally shipped anywhere in the nation in a handful of days. It makes business explode because now you have a market that's literally the entire country. It used to be before the railroads, your market was your immediate area. Whoever was nearby could buy your product. Now it's anyone. This is going to be coupled with this economic idea that's really going to be permeating throughout America during this time. This economic idea is called laissez-faire economics. It's a French phrase that simply means allowed to do. Now, what this is really suggesting is businesses have no restrictions. They can do whatever they want to make their products and to make profits. There are basically zero government regulations upon them at this time. They can do anything. Just make your product as best you can and ship it out at the price that you think is fair and make as much profit as possible. Now, today in the United States, we have one of the freest, open, capitalistic systems in the world. But we still have government regulation. There are plenty of things. So I want to ask you guys, what do you know that's one thing that the government says to a business, you either have to do this or you cannot do that? How do they regulate business today? Riddick, what's one thing? No child labor. They say you have to be this age if you're going to work. Good. What else is there? Another restriction. You must do this or you cannot do that. Oh, my teammate, I'm surprised. This is kind of geared towards you. Something else, yes, you? For certain jobs, yes, but, well, actually, no, that is sometimes government regulation. Certainly, that's a good example. Something else.
A permit.
Say it again?
A permit.
Like a work permit? You got it. If you're a certain age, you have to have a work permit. Sure. Let me say that. What about your wages? What is it? What was the word? I'm sorry? Minimum wage. You have to make at least this much. During this time, none of that exists. The success or the failure of your business is all on you. There are no rules restricting what you can do. If you're a good businessman or woman and you run your business well, then it succeeds. It thrives. It expands. If there's something wrong with your business, if it has a weakness, then it dies out. It's the survival of the fittest. Now, this is the same time period where we're going to see a biologist come up with a theory that is very similar to this idea. Now, this biologist is looking at animals with different traits that allow some of them to thrive while the others die out. Now, I bet you know who I'm referring to here. Who is this? Darwin's theory. This is his theory of natural selection. Those that are best suited to thrive will thrive. Those that have a weakness, those that have a flaw, those who can't compete will die out. This biological theory is going to be spread with the idea that people say, Darwin has this theory about animals, but people are just animals too. Maybe there's certain traits about us where you are strong and thrive, or weak and die out. Maybe we can apply this to business and economics as well. Let the competition begin. Weed out those businesses that are less suited. Let the strong thrive. This is some real serious competition. Cutthroat kind of competition, where you either succeed and thrive or you die out. Now, I will just kind of say this because competition does some things to people. It shows certain traits, really. And I'll just say this. I'm a competitive person. Don't really know why, just in me. It's just kind of the way I am. But I've been around people. I've played with other people. I've coached people that are way more competitive than me, that are just absolute killers. And it's kind of something to be drawn to. So I always just use this example. Maybe the most competitive person, I've never even met him. Michael Jordan is weird competitive. He wants to win at everything. And he doesn't even care what it is. He wants to win at bingo and tiddlywinks and whatever you got. He's just an absolute killer in that regards. Because as Michael Jordan said, he goes, it's not even that I like winning. I just hate losing. I can't lose. And I can't be around losers either. I have to win. That kind of crazy competition is what we're going to find ourselves in the late 1800s with a couple of people that take competition to the absolute extremes. First one we're going to talk about is going to be Andrew Carnegie. Now, Carnegie was a Scottish immigrant. He came to the United States. I think he came when he was 7 years old with literally nothing. He had the clothes on his back, and that was it. He went to school, I think if I remember, he went to school for 1 year and dropped out so he could start working. He worked at a railroad company when he was 8 years old. And Carnegie proves to be very sharp and a really hard worker. They start promoting him. They're promoting an 8-year-old. They promote him, and he's there for a few years. By the time he's about 11 or 12 years old, he's running the logistics of this railroad company. He's making sure trains are where they are, and they have to be on time, and so they don't collide into each other. They trusted a 12-year-old. They weren't wrong. This guy was really good at everything he did. He can see potential in the railroads, but there's more potential in something else. Carnegie's looking at the way that steel is made. Now, we were kind of talking yesterday about how, remember when I said like they accidentally figured out how to purify steel, iron into steel? Did we talk about that yesterday?
Yeah.
We did? Okay. Iron into steel was being produced really slowly and inefficiently. And Carnegie himself even says, the way they're doing this is dumb. You're leaving so much money on the table because your systems are old, antiquated, and slow. We need to make it better, faster, and cheaper. We can mass produce steel at the time when the world is building out of steel. Carnegie sets his sights really high, and he believes in himself. He says, I think I can produce more steel than anyone else in the world. Me, alone. I just need to take the gamble. He takes literally every cent he has and puts it into this kind of experimental almost kind of technique and equipment. He puts all his money on the line and says, I think this will change the world. He turns out to be right. His system makes steel faster, better, and cheaper than anyone else in the world. Now he needs to expand. So when he starts kind of expanding his business and getting more and more founders of steel factories, he needs managers. He needs people to run it. But kind of just like Michael Jordan, Carnegie said, I can't stand losers. I need winners. I need people that are like me, that are willing to do what it takes to be the best. So he would often, when he'd open a new factory, he needed a manager, someone to run it. He would hire 10 people for that one manager spot. And he would tell them, basically on day one, when they first showed up, said, I have 10 of you to do one job. That means 9 of you are going to get fired. But one of you I will make wealthier than you could have ever possibly dreamed of. I'm going to make you a millionaire. If you prove to me you're good at what you do, compete. Let the games begin. He would, and he'd deliver on his promise. He had hundreds of foundries all across the country. Everyone who was running it was making millions of dollars because of him and because of themselves, because they were willing to do what it takes. As his business is growing, he starts to think, I need to be even better at what I do. I need to be the best. So he institutes what he calls his vertical integration, where he buys up all the steps that it takes to make his steel. He realizes, and he's correct, the more you control over the process, the less expensive it is. So he buys up the iron mines, buys up the coal fields to run his foundries, buys up transportation and logistics, owns it all. He can make his steel cheaper than anyone else because he owns every step in the process. Now it's time to be even more competitive. He's going to institute his horizontal integration. His horizontal integration says, once you're ready, buy out all of your competition. Eliminate anything that's a threat to your business, your power, and your money. He starts buying up his competition. Now let me just ask, what's he basically establishing here if he's buying up all the competition? What is yesterday? A monopoly. He wants a monopoly. He wants to be the single and only steel producer in America. He almost does it because he has a very simple choice for people. When he goes to a competitor, he tells them, look, I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, and I'm more competitive than you. You can't beat me. You won't. You will lose. So I'm going to give you an option. You can sell your steel business to me. I'll keep you on as the manager. I'll make you wealthier than you could ever possibly imagine or do for yourself. Or you can compete against me and I'll crush you and leave you penniless and broke. What'll it be? Do you really have an option here? There are going to be some people that try to go against him. Guess what happens? Crushed, bankrupt. He's going to make plenty of millionaires, though. Plenty of people that do go along with him. Now, at his peak, he's going to make right about, give or take, because you kind of got to compare for today's dollars. In today's dollars, about $340 billion. A distant second to number one on the list. John D. Rockefeller has a different idea for the future of industry. Rockefeller sees the future in oil. Now, he's not wrong. He gets it.